Oh my God, I haven't made a YouTube video in forever. Oh, the algorithm is gonna punish me. Look, I got important stuff to talk about because it's fall and I just need to show you all the fall color that's happening in the garden before everything just turns into sticks for the rest of the year. So I basically have a perimeter garden, which is just that I have a lot of plants around the outside. We're gonna start with this rain garden. Here we go, Carex muscingumensis, palm sedge, looking great. This stuff stays green even after a couple of frosts. I think I have a microclimate in my backyard because it's kind of protected by some trees and it's a little bit warmer than other areas. This is a whole bunch of Siberian iris. I got that from a neighbor and it's not native, but here we go, is some swamp milkweed. So the swamp milkweed does have a really pretty fall color. But the king of the fall color here is going to be this red twig dogwood right here. Look at these stems. They're green during the year, and then once it starts to get cooler, they turn this brilliant red. So awesome, sticking straight up. You're going to see a little bit of fall color here. It hasn't completely turned, but it's got beautiful fall color every single year. Now this guy gets kind of wide, so I do cut it so that I can walk through this walkway right here. This is my rain garden. Red twig dogwood can tolerate lots of water. So I actually send my sump pump out here and then the dogwood just like sucks it all up. It's wonderful. You may have seen the video where I had a fire and then my sumac got destroyed. Well, it's now like 7 feet tall and it's looking great. This is a very resilient plant, so crazy. It really does have beautiful fall color when it turns. I'll show you some pictures of other sumacs. I'm still waiting for this one to turn completely. Oh, but it looks like this one's doing great. Look at that. Wow. People really don't know about this plant. You know, there are some small sumacs that you can buy. They are cultivars and they're not as robust, obviously, and they're kind of bred for that reason because these guys are too aggressive to really have in most people's yards, and I'm probably going to regret it. Oh, here we go. Look at our shagbark hickory right here, doing great. It did have some damage from the fire, but you know, shagbark hickory doesn't care that much about losing its leaves to fire. And this one is probably 4 years old and it's only up to my waist. They do grow pretty slowly, but the trade-off is that you have a really strong tree that's not going to fall on your house. So, or like probably not. Here's a Joe Pyeweed volunteer. Look, I've had a tough summer and I did not come out here and weed everything, but I've got quite a few volunteers. This one's even still blooming because it's probably in its first year. Joe Pyeweed seeds aggressively, so you gotta watch out. Look at this. This must be serviceberry, I think. If I'm wrong, you know, I'll admit it, but this is a little serviceberry that I got and I didn't really have a home for it, so I put it here in the vegetable bed. You can see it's surrounded with sage. So I've got all this beautiful sage and we're gonna come up on frost very soon. This can take a couple of frosts, but what I do is I just cut it and I hang it upside down and dry it and put it in a mason jar, and then I'll have plenty of sage for the entire winter and the whole rest of the year basically. I do have some hazelnuts that I didn't find a home for this year. But look at the color of these hazelnuts. They're again in my vegetable bed because I'm growing native plants in here. But I mean, look at that color. Look at how pretty that is. It's great for like, if you want privacy. It's very dense and it looks beautiful in the fall, and it'll give you hazelnuts that the squirrels will all eat. The squirrels will eat every one. So far, I have not had a hazelnut from my hazelnut shrubs. Because the squirrels are just too competitive with it. So here's my neglected shade garden. We still have some damage from when the fire department had to break in here and put out the fire. We've got to fix that fence. It's just been a lot going on, so we haven't gotten around to that. But this is my hydrangea. Now this hydrangea got trampled, it got damaged a little bit by the fire, but it doesn't care. Oh, and look, there's a buckthorn. Yeah, of course there is. This is our spice bush. Look, all of this green just grew this year, and it came up because this was all damaged. Okay, this was all burnt by our compost fire. And I shouldn't be able to just snap these branches like that. These are dead. So I'm going to remove them in the winter. I'm not going to make any cuts while it's still growing. I'm going to wait until it's dormant to trim it back. But this is all new growth. And look, we've got some bugs eating it here. So that's fantastic. It's fantastic. We've got a spice bush here that, it was damaged, but our native plants are so tough. They literally do not care about fire. Some of them really thrive with fire. These are like tomato plants that just kind of appeared. These are volunteer tomato plants. Looks like they're cherry tomatoes. Maybe I have some neighbors that are growing some tomatoes this year. I did not grow any cherry tomatoes, but that is wild. There's a nice catalpa tree, volunteer. I don't think that belongs here because straight above it, just only 12 feet above this, is a power line. So we're not going to do that, right? So we're not going to plant trees right next to power lines, right? Right, because that's going to cost us money, it's going to cost the city money, and it's going to be dangerous for your neighborhood. And who knows, maybe some sparks will fly down and start a fire. Not saying this would happen, but it could. Here's another volunteer tomato that was killed by the frost. Again, I did not plant this. These all just volunteered after the fire. So this is fantastic. This is our wahoo. I'm gonna have to put this on the screen because I can't think of it right now. But this is our eastern wahoo, and it did get destroyed by the fire up here, and I just wasn't sure how much of it was gonna grow back. But there we go, right from the bottom. Here it is. Look at that. So that's fine. It set us back another year, but that's okay. We also have a second one right here. That burdock has gotten a little bit big. I know some people like burdock. I do not. I used to have little toy poodles, and well, you can just imagine a poodle running into a whole bunch of burdock, and then, well, there's nothing you can do. You have to give them a haircut after that. You can't pull all those burrs out. And this is a little blue stem that maybe it's too much shade for this area, but look at that color. That is so pretty. Our honeysuckle, the Lonicera sempervirens. This is not the aggressive invasive honeysuckle. This is our native honeysuckle, and it still has some blooms on it. Sempervirens means it's evergreen, always green or something like that. Anyway, it's nice to see that there's still a couple of flowers here for the straggler insects that are still looking for food. And sometimes it's hard, I see these little bumblebees and they're mostly gone, but sometimes I see one and I just want him to be able to have a little snack. So here are my hazelnuts that I planted in the ground. So these are pretty large. I planted 3 here, probably too close together. They do spread by suckers. They might spread into my neighbor's yard, but they keep it mowed over there, so I think it's okay. Here's another mulberry or whatever. So you'll see that a lot of the weeds that we get in the native garden are actually trees. And it's really important to understand that, because if you don't get the trees early and cut them below ground level, they will come back aggressively and you'll have these little stumps where you just keep having to cut them every year. It's a lot. You can try to dig it up, but I'd rather try to find them early. And while this looks like a little bit of a mess, let's take a look. Look on the ground and you'll see all the Sporobolus. And what I'm discovering is that I'm in big trouble because I did not deadhead any of my Joe Pye weed. Last year I deadheaded all of my Joe Pye weed and I still had like 12 volunteers. So I think I'm in trouble. Sporobolus in the front. These are fountain grasses. Yeah, it's like a fountain grass that's really great for borders. They are going to seed now, so they look a little bit wild, but I love Sporobolus. I'll plant this everywhere where it's dry and sunny. Oh, man, look at this big mulberry. I am in so much trouble. Yeah. This is what happens, especially near fences on your property, is that you'll get birds perching on the fence, or birds will perch on the wire, and they will kind of poop out all these seeds from the mulberries that your neighbors are growing. This area does get kind of wild in the fall, not gonna lie. I love it though, because it's great shelter for the birds and little animals, and there's just so much food on the plants because I plant native plants and caterpillars can eat the leaves. When you plant exotic plants, little buggos and caterpillars cannot always eat the leaves of foreign plants because they're just not used to eating that, and so you don't get a lot of caterpillars, and that's really what our birds need to survive. That's what their babies eat, so that's what we want to grow. We want to grow caterpillars for our songbirds so we can have a nice ecosystem. Now this is kind of interesting right here, is that I have some phlox that just looks like actual garbage down here. Let's take a look. It's still alive. Phlox is a really tough plant, but it looks like it might have gotten overshadowed by something during the year, and so it did lose a lot of its leaves. But I think it'll come back next year, so maybe in the spring I'll try to remove some of this dead stuff and give it a chance to kind of recover. And here's our Monarda. It actually looks great. I've seen some Monarda that absolutely looks dead right now, but this cultivar, whatever it is, it's got a little pink to the hue. It's not completely red. This one is strong, and I'm gonna say this is probably almost 5 feet tall. It's still green after a little bit of frost, so very tough. Oh, here's some Queen of the Prairie that just didn't grow well this year. I think that it got crowded out by the Monarda, and I'm gonna go ahead and dig some of that up because it's a really precious plant and I don't want it to die here. I want to put it somewhere where it's really gonna thrive. So on the other side, we've got more red twig dogwood right here. Now this is a cultivar called Cardinal, and it's supposed to be a little bit more upright, and I didn't have to cut it away from the path at all this year. So far, so good. That's definitely doubled in size. At its tallest point, it is 7 feet tall, so it is doing pretty good. This is a beautiful plant. Beautiful fall color, great for privacy screen, and also if you have a wet area. So you'll notice that I have a red twig dogwood here, and I also have one on the other side of the yard, and that's because that's where the gutters empty into the yard. I don't want to just treat the water falling on my property as waste, okay? Because it's not waste, it's water, it's precious. And so instead of kind of directing it out towards the river and causing the river to get higher, we'll keep it on the property and absorb it with these plants. When we're doing rain gardens and planting wetland plants, we can see that water isn't waste and we can absolutely use it. Now I'm really proud of these guys. These are Nannyberry viburnums, Viburnum lentago, and they are getting pretty tall. Let's take a look. These nannyberries are pretty tall right now, and they are almost like trees. They're a shrub, but they're kind of an understory tree as well. And they do have beautiful fall color. Right now what you're seeing is mostly a green, but you can tell that it's kind of turning a little bit. Now I also have on the fence here more Lonicera sempervirens, the honeysuckle, and you can see a little bit. There's one more flower. There we go. That's pretty nice. So I have this just hanging on my fence here, and it does hang over to the neighbor's side. I try to make sure it doesn't look too wild over there, but they also trim it back too. That's just one plant, and it's just nice to have something that the hummingbirds really like, those tubular flowers. Look at that, right when you come out, it's like fire. The chokeberries look awesome. I don't see any berries on this chokeberry. They have all been eaten by little critters, and that is totally fine with me. And a lot of the leaves have fallen off already, so you're not seeing the fullness of the fall color, but it's really stunning. I've got some sedges for a project that I'm gonna do this weekend. Have a lot of sedges to put in. Oh, and I've got a butternut squash that I got from the permaculture garden down the street. And here's the garden that I showed in the spring. So Carex rosea is actually doing great. It looks so pretty right here, and there's some low bee balm next to it, and you can kind of see that. It looks beautiful with the Carex rosea. They fight with each other just a little bit. Most things are kind of done blooming here, so it's not quite as impressive, but let's look at what looks good with fall color. Okay, this is early, but look at this. This is my sassafras, and this whole tree is just gonna light up with that beautiful color when it's time. The sassafras has really grown a couple of feet this year, so I'm really excited about that. It's about 5 feet tall. They are hard to get established, but it's so worth it. Of course, now the bright sun has come out. Here's our bur oak doing really well and changing a little bit of color. But what I really want to show is our Northwind panicum right here, just glowing in the sun. Look at that. This looks beautiful all year round. And of course, our little blue stems looking amazing. Brilliant fall color. It's like orange and then orange and green and yellow. Looks so pretty. And then here's more little blue stem that has kind of turned already. Let's see if I can get these from this angle. And just see how pretty everything looks in the fall. So that's all I'm going to talk about today, just a little bit of a quick tour. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to posting more videos very soon.